What if I told you that behind the glitter of Hollywood, the fame, the flashing cameras, and the red carpets, lies a shadowed truth that will leave you shaken? These weren't just actors. They were legends, burdened with history, talent, and unspoken struggles. Yet, their final chapters were anything but glamorous. From shocking tragedies that silenced Hollywood overnight to private battles fought in the dark, these 31 black actors left this world far too soon. Their deaths weren't only losses. They were haunting reminders of just how fragile even the brightest stars can be. Roger E. Mosley, a horrific crash in his final moments behind the wheel. In the 1980s, Roger E. Mosley became a familiar face to millions as TC, the fearless helicopter pilot in the hit series Magnum P.I. From humble beginnings, he carved his way into Hollywood with grit, heart, and unshakable determination, becoming a symbol for anyone who dared to dream beyond prejudice. His life story was one of triumph over obstacles, a testament to resilience. But in the summer of 2022, fate delivered a cruel twist. On the afternoon of August 4th, Mosley was driving alone, something he often did, a quiet ritual tied to memories of his youth. He was heading toward the beach where he loved to watch the sunset. But destiny intervened. As he approached a sharp curve near Crenshaw, a truck suddenly lost control, barreling into his car with devastating force. The impact thundered like an explosion. Glass shattered, metal ripped apart, and in a single heartbeat, everything changed. Rushed to the hospital in critical condition, Mosley's spine was shattered, leaving him unable to move. For 3 days he lay in a bed surrounded by machines, his eyes carrying the desperate fight of a man who had once beaten the odds. Family members held his hand, whispering old stories, hoping to awaken the spirit of the fighter they loved so deeply. But his body was too weary. On the morning of August 7, 2022, Roger E. Mosley took his final breath, surrounded by grieving loved ones. A man who rose above hardship, who inspired millions, could not outrun the cruel hand of fate. His legacy remains, not just as an actor, but as a dreamer who proved that barriers can be broken. Thomas Jefferson Byrd, a lonely artist whose final curtain fell in a hail of bullets. He was never a Hollywood headliner, but for fans of Ray, Clockers, or Bamboozled, his presence was unforgettable. A trusted collaborator of Spike Lee, Byrd didn't need leading roles. In just a few minutes of screen time, he left an impression that lingered. Born and raised in Georgia, under the suffocating weight of racism, Byrd turned to art as his refuge. His performances weren't just acting, they were confessions. His characters carried his scars, his pain, his quiet resilience. Every role was a piece of his survival. But in October 2020, his story ended with brutal finality. Just before dawn in Atlanta, his body was discovered sprawled on a sidewalk beneath a flickering streetlight, riddled with bullets in the back. His wallet, his watch, his phone, untouched. This was no robbery. Only his life had been taken. Friends said Byrd had grown reclusive, wary, always looking over his shoulder. Once, he had clashed bitterly with a young man in his theater class, expelling him for disrespect. Everyone thought the feud had ended there, until that night. A suspect was later arrested, but the true motive remained cloaked in shadows. The media barely whispered his name. His murder slipped through headlines, fading into silence. And so, Thomas Jefferson Byrd, a man who lived authentically and poured his soul into every frame, died in quiet obscurity. A life of art, extinguished in darkness. Tabby Diamond, reggae royalty, gunned down in the streets of Kingston. He wasn't just the voice of the mighty Diamonds. He was the heartbeat of Jamaican music, carrying the cries of the poor and the hopes of the restless in every note he sang. His voice rose above the gunsmoke of Kingston streets, preaching peace where chaos reigned. But on March 29, 2022, that voice was silenced. Outside a Kingston hospital, during what should have been a simple checkup, Tabby was chatting with friends when a motorcycle rolled up. A burst of gunfire cracked the air. In seconds, he was on the ground, lifeless. Another man fell beside him. The shooter vanished into an alley, leaving behind only fear and whispers. Locals murmured of a gang feud in the Waterhouse district, and rumors swirled that someone close to Tabby had drawn him into a bloody score he never signed up for. It felt like an execution. A man who spent his life singing of love and unity was struck down by blind hatred in the very place he called home. Tabby had toured the world, standing on stages where reggae met justice and hope. But he always came back to Kingston, faithful to his roots, even in poverty and danger. That loyalty cost him his life. His murder wasn't just the loss of an artist, it was a brutal wound to Jamaican music itself. A bitter reminder that in a land where bullets often drown out songs, not even legends are safe. Coolio, a hip-hop legend, silenced by drugs. Born artist Leon Ivy Jr., he rose from the streets of Compton to become one of the biggest rap icons of the 1990s. His anthem Gangsta's Paradise didn't just win a Grammy, it broke barriers, taking gritty street rap into the mainstream and etching his name into music history. But Coolio was more than a rapper. He was an actor, a TV personality, even a cookbook author. His larger-than-life charisma made him a household name worldwide. That's why the news of September 28, 2022 hit like a thunderclap. At a friend's home in Los Angeles, Coolio was found collapsed in a bathroom. By the time paramedics arrived, the man who gave the world one of rap's greatest anthems was already gone. The autopsy revealed a devastating truth: a fatal mix of fentanyl and other drugs. Behind the fame and the smile, Coolio had been fighting the shadows of addiction for decades. He had survived a rough Compton childhood, clawed his way into stardom, and tried more than once to escape the spiral. But the grip of fentanyl proved stronger. His passing was more than a personal tragedy, it was a brutal reminder of the epidemic stealing countless lives, including far too many artists. Coolio's story remains a haunting echo. Talent can conquer the charts, but addiction can still claim the soul. Michael K. Williams, an artist at his peak, undone by a deadly drug. He was one of television's most unforgettable faces, a man who turned Omar Little in The Wire into more than a character. He made him a legend. Fierce, uncompromising. But the truth was, Michael carried more scars and shadows than any role he ever played. On the morning of September 6, 2021, his family arrived at his Brooklyn apartment. The door was unlocked. The silence was crushing. Inside, near a wooden table, a script lay half-read. Beside it, Michael lay still, gone from a fatal overdose, a toxic mix that included fentanyl. It was the tragic ending to a battle he had fought for years, one he never hid from the world. He spoke openly about his struggles, turning his pain into advocacy, warning others about the very demons that haunted him. And yet, just when his career looked brighter than ever, with new films lined up and his smile shining across social media, he fell. No one imagined the man days away from starring in a film about addiction victims would become one himself. The dealer who sold him the poison was caught, but justice couldn't undo the loss. Michael left this world the way he lived in it, scarred, emotional, unapologetically real. A soul worn down by battles too heavy to bear. And with his passing, television lost more than an actor. It lost a voice that spoke truth through pain, and a spirit that refused to pretend. John Holmes, the rise and ruin of an adult film legend. John Curtis Holmes, better known as Johnny Wad, ruled the 1970s adult film industry. His name was stamped across hundreds of movies, his image a seductive fantasy for an entire generation. But behind the lights and cameras lived a man consumed by shadows he could never escape. On March 13, 1988, inside a Los Angeles hospital, Holmes slipped away at just 43 years old. The cause? A brutal combination of HIV/AIDS, diagnosed in 1986, and years of unrelenting cocaine abuse. Once the king of desire, he withered into a frail figure, unrecognizable, his body ravaged and his eyes hollow. In the end, he was no star, just a broken man fighting demons no one could see. His downfall wasn't only disease, but guilt. In 1981, Holmes was caught in the orbit of the infamous Wonderland murders, one of Los Angeles's bloodiest underworld crimes. Though never convicted, suspicion clung to him like a shadow, shattering his career. Film offers vanished, replaced by lonely nights and aimless wandering. In his final years, he tried to cling to scraps of work, But the fire in his gaze was gone, his face gaunt, his spirit defeated. John Holmes' story is not just about sex, fame, or scandal. It's about how a man with everything to lose handed himself over to darkness. Drugs, crime, loneliness, and disease tore apart a legend, leaving only a tragic cautionary tale of what happens when desire consumes the soul. Taraja Ramsess, a heroic father whose life ended in tragedy on the highway. He wasn't a Hollywood star splashed across movie posters, but a silent force behind some of the most breathtaking stunts in Black Panther, Avengers, and Creed 3. A single father of 5, Taraja fought every day to give his children a future brighter than his own. Colleagues admired his courage, his sacrifice, and the way he carried both his family and his craft on his shoulders. But on Halloween night, October 31, 2023, fate struck with merciless cruelty. Driving home from a costume party with 3 of his kids, Taraja's SUV slammed into a broken-down truck left stranded in the dark on an Atlanta highway. No hazard lights. No warning. Just a silent trap waiting in the night. The collision was catastrophic. Metal twisted, glass exploded, and in an instant, the world of a father and his children was gone. First responders arrived to a heartbreaking scene. Taraja and 3 of his beloved kids had perished on impact. A man who once smiled through exhaustion while bringing his children to movie sets because he couldn't afford childcare was now remembered only through shattered memories, his story ending as violently as the car that crumpled beneath him. This was more than an accident. It was a gut-wrenching loss for Hollywood's stunt community, for his neighborhood, and for every parent who knows the weight of sacrifice. Taraja Ramsess left without a goodbye, but his legacy lives on. In his unshakable spirit, his relentless love, and the devotion of a father who gave everything. Nipsey Hustle, a dream silenced by gunfire in South Los Angeles. Nipsey wasn't just a rapper or actor. He was a beacon of hope, a voice of resilience, and a man determined to transform the streets that raised him. From his early days in gang life to the success of his groundbreaking album The Marathon, Nipsey used his platform not only to inspire but to reinvest in his community, building opportunities where there had once been only despair. But on March 31, 2019, an ordinary day turned into a tragedy that shook the soul of South LA. Nipsey stood outside his Marathon clothing store, the very symbol of his rebirth and his mission to uplift others. No one imagined those same steps would become the scene of his final moments. The gunman wasn't a faceless enemy, but someone he knew, Eric Holder. Driven by jealousy and personal grudges, Holder unleashed a storm of bullets in broad daylight. Nipsey fell, his body collapsing as screams echoed through Crenshaw. He had chosen to walk without bodyguards, a gesture of trust that became his undoing. Surveillance cameras captured the horror as Holder returned to finish what he had started. At exactly 3:55 p.m., Nipsey Hussle's life was cut short. What he left behind was more than music. It was an unfinished dream. A vision of South LA free from violence, filled instead with opportunity and pride. His death left a community mourning and a movement wounded. The man who fought to rebuild lives was stolen by the very violence he sought to end, his legacy now carried in the tears and determination of those who believed in him. Lamont Bentley, a rising star whose light was extinguished far too soon. Best known as Hakeem Campbell on the hit sitcom Moesha, he wasn't just a familiar face, but a vibrant symbol of youth and promise. America watched him grow, laughed with him, and believed his future was limitless. But fate had a crueler script in store. In the early hours of January 19, 2005, the quiet stretch of California's Highway 118 became the stage for a nightmare. Lamont's Mercedes sliced through the darkness, speeding as if chased by unseen demons. He drove alone, his mind weighed down by the pressures of a fading career, broken contracts, the relentless shadow of typecasting, and the responsibility of raising 2 young daughters. That drive wasn't leisure, it was escape. Then, in an instant, everything shattered. His car swerved, crashed through a fence, and flipped violently over and over, like a storm out of control. Not wearing a seatbelt, was thrown from the wreckage. When the world went still, he was gone. No warning. No goodbye. Just silence. Back at home, his daughters slept peacefully, unaware their father would never return. To the world, his death was a tragic accident. But to those who looked closer, it was the cry of a soul consumed by the false glamour of Hollywood, a star burning too bright, too fast, until nothing remained but a haunting void. Moses J. Mosley, a haunting mystery hidden in Georgia's shadows. He wasn't a household name, but for fans of The Walking Dead, his soulful eyes and quiet presence left an unforgettable mark. He didn't chase the spotlight or boast about his craft. He simply carved out his place in a brutal industry with humility and persistence. Yet behind that calm smile lived battles no one saw. On January 26, 2022, silence fell over Stockbridge, Georgia. A Dodge Challenger sat motionless on the edge of the woods. Inside, Moses lay lifeless. A gun rested on the passenger seat. For nearly a week, he had vanished. No calls, no goodbyes, just an eerie absence. Police weighed suicide, maybe an accident, but the truth is still shrouded in darkness. Friends knew him as polite, cheerful, always gracious. But when the cameras turned off, Moses wrestled with panic attacks and nights that felt suffocatingly alone. His spirit dimmed as small supporting roles left him overshadowed, his big break always just out of reach. And when he lost a major role in his final months, the blow was devastating. That night, he drove away from his mother's home, deeper and deeper into the woods, where phone signals die, where time stands still. There, the promise of a rising star ended in heartbreaking silence, leaving behind questions that may never be answered. Sidney Poitier, a Hollywood legend whose journey reshaped cinema, took his final bow in solitude. From the poverty of the Bahamas to the glimmering heights of Hollywood, Poitier broke barriers, becoming the first black actor to win an Oscar for Lilies of the Field. He wasn't just a performer, he was a pioneer, opening doors for generations of black artists who followed. But behind the glory lived scars the spotlight could never heal. On January 6, 2022, as Los Angeles shivered through a rare cold night, Poitier quietly passed away in his hillside home. Years of battling heart disease and the weight of time had taken their toll. The silence of the house seemed to echo the solitude of a man who once carried the burden of prejudice and the fight for dignity on his shoulders. He had faced scornful stares, endured typecast roles, and waged a lifelong struggle for equal recognition in a world that often refused to see his worth. The world applauded his triumphs, but the applause could not erase the loneliness that haunted his final years. The night before his death, Poitier sat in the dark, looking out at the glowing city below. In those quiet hours, he was not the icon, but a man reflecting on a lifetime of victories shadowed by unspoken sorrow. His story reminds us that no matter how towering the legacy, every soul eventually faces the silence of mortality. Lee Thompson Young, the silent fade of a bright star. Lee Thompson Young wasn't just another actor, he was a part of millions of childhoods. As the face of the famous Jet Jackson, he became a teen idol. Disciplined, charismatic, always smiling, with a future that seemed limitless. On screen, he radiated confidence and promise. Off-screen, he carried a heavy silence. Behind the bright lights, Lee was fighting a battle few could see, a relentless, unnamed exhaustion that weighed on his spirit. On August 19, 2013, the world woke to heartbreaking news. Lee had been found in his Los Angeles apartment, gone without a note, leaving fans and colleagues stunned. It later emerged that he had been living with bipolar disorder and depression, illnesses as invisible as they are devastating. He had fame, talent, and the admiration of countless fans, yet the one thing he longed for, inner peace, remained out of reach. His tragic passing wasn't just the loss of a gifted actor, it was a reminder of the hidden struggles so many face in silence. A star who once lit up our screens was gone too soon, leaving behind a legacy of talent and a haunting lesson about the battles we never see. Eartha Kitt, a legend's final breath. She wasn't just an entertainer, she was a storm. From her mesmerizing turn as Catwoman in Batman to her sultry, unforgettable songs, Eartha was bold, sharp, and unapologetically herself. Yet behind the glittering stage lights, her life was anything but easy. On Christmas Day, December 25, 2008, while the world rejoiced, Eartha lay in a quiet New York hospital room. After 2 years of battling colon cancer, she slipped away, her departure as fierce and silent as her fight. What lingers most is not just the moment of her passing, but the way she faced it, unyielding, uncomplaining, refusing to surrender until her body gave in. Her life had always been a battle. Raised in poverty, scarred by abuse, rejected for her race and heritage, she fought every obstacle the world threw at her. When she condemned the Vietnam War, Hollywood slammed its doors, but she clawed her way back stronger than ever. Even as cancer ravaged her body, she kept performing, her fiery eyes and hypnotic voice still captivating audiences. Eartha Kitt lived and died on her own terms. Her last fight was her hardest, but it was also the purest reflection of who she had always been: defiant, resilient, unforgettable. Merlin Santana, a young star whose light was stolen by vengeful bullets. He wasn't just another actor. Merlin was one of Hollywood's brightest rising names. With his charm and effortless talent, he lit up the Steve Harvey Show, winning over audiences who believed they were watching the start of something legendary. From the rough streets of Los Angeles, he carried dreams bigger than the city itself, dreams of conquering Hollywood. But fate was merciless. On the night of November 9, 2002, as the city's lights flickered against the dark sky, Merlin sat quietly in a car, unaware that danger had already marked him. A group of angry young men, blinded by revenge, mistook him for someone else. In an instant, glass shattered, bullets tore through the night, and Merlin's life ended before he even had the chance to see how high he could soar. He was just 26. His career was climbing, his future unwritten, his story unfinished. To his family and fans, his death was not just personal tragedy, it was a cruel reminder of the dangers young black men face every day. A vibrant soul, full of ambition and light, silenced in the most senseless way. Merlin Santana's promise didn't fade on its own, it was ripped away by violence that never should have happened. Isabelle Sanford wasn't just a star, she was television royalty. As Louise Jefferson on The Jeffersons, she shattered barriers and became a beacon of black representation in a Hollywood that too often shut its doors. Her sharp wit and commanding presence made America laugh, but her private life carried a very different weight. Born into the struggles of Harlem's poverty, she grew up under the constant shadow of racism. Marriage offered no comfort, only heartbreak. And as the years passed, her health began to betray her. A long-simmering heart condition grew merciless, draining her strength bit by bit. On July 9, 2004, Isabelle was rushed to a Los Angeles hospital in critical condition. In that quiet room, time seemed to hold its breath. Doctors fought desperately, but her frail body could no longer fight back. Her heartbeat weakened, then faded into silence. Isabelle Sanford slipped away, leaving behind not just a career, but a legacy built on courage, laughter, and sacrifice. She was a trailblazer who made millions smile, yet carried private battles few ever knew. Her passing was more than the end of a life. It was the closing of a hard-fought journey marked by resilience, pain, and triumph. Roscoe Lee Browne, a commanding voice, a regal presence, and a man who carried both triumph and tragedy. Known for his elegance on stage and unforgettable roles in film, including his work in The Cowboys, Browne stood as a giant in American culture. His deep, velvety voice earned him reverence, but behind that brilliance was a life shadowed by struggle. For years, he fought a brutal battle with stomach cancer. The illness drained his strength day by day, yet Browne refused to surrender his craft. He worked through the pain, performing with quiet dignity while carrying an agony few ever saw. On April 11, 2007, inside a Los Angeles hospital room, his voice fell silent forever. But his story was more than a fight against disease. It was also a fight against the weight of prejudice. A black artist in a world that often tried to limit him, Browne shattered barriers with courage and grace. His death was not just the loss of a brilliant performer, but the heartbreaking finale of a man who endured, persevered, and left behind a legacy carved in both greatness and struggle. Ruby Dee. The silent farewell. She was more than an actress, she was a force of nature. A legend who lit up the stage and screen, and a fearless voice in the civil rights movement. Audiences remembered her brilliance in A Raisin in the Sun and Do the Right Thing, but Ruby's legacy reached far beyond Hollywood. She stood tall in an era of silence, daring to speak when so many were told to stay quiet. But on June 11, 2014, that blazing light dimmed forever. Ruby Dee passed away in her New Rochelle home. No cameras, no applause. Only faded walls and old photographs bore witness to her final breath. Her heart, worn from years of struggle and sorrow, finally gave out, not gently, but after a long and grueling journey of pain. Since the death of her beloved husband Ossie Davis in 2005, Ruby had been fading, like a candle burning to its last drop of wax. Nearly a decade of loneliness followed. Her memory weakened, her body frail, her heart breaking night after night as she longed for Ossie's voice, his laughter, his hand in hers. Often, she sat in silence, eyes lost in a daze, as if waiting for someone who would never return. And so, when her heart stopped, no one saw the silent battle she had been fighting. Yet everyone who knew her story understood, this was the bitter end of a life that carried brilliance, courage, and too much pain. Ossie Davis. A legend silenced by the weight of time. Davis, the veteran actor and fearless civil rights activist, carved his place in history with unforgettable roles like Do the Right Thing. Born into the poverty and racism of Georgia, he refused to bow, carrying himself with dignity and defiance through every storm life hurled at him. On February 4, 2005, while working on a new film in a Miami Beach hotel, his heart, worn down by years of illness, relentless stress, and lonely battles, finally gave out. The room where he passed was hauntingly still, as if holding the echoes of every struggle he had fought. His death was not just the loss of an actor, it was the loss of a warrior for justice, a voice of resilience, and a man who stood tall when retreat would have been easier. Ossie Davis left behind a legacy of courage, truth, and art that continues to inspire those who refuse to be broken. Joey Stefano, the gay film star whose beauty once defined the 80s, lived a life as dazzling as it was doomed. Behind the sensual icon was a young man scarred by chaos, pulled into the grip of drugs before he ever had a chance to truly escape. Addiction and inner torment became his constant shadows. On November 21, 1994, after a lavish, drug-fueled night in Hollywood, Joey slipped into a fatal coma, his body overwhelmed by methamphetamine and ketamine. He was only 26. His death wasn't just the fall of a star, it was the brutal finale of a silent war he had fought within himself. Beneath the glamour, Joey's life was a haunting reminder of how fame can hide fractures too deep to heal, leaving behind a tragic testament to a soul that never found peace. John Beasley, a fighter on and off the screen. Though he was a late bloomer in Hollywood, his presence was unforgettable. From Rudy to the Sum of All Fears, he carved out a name that demanded respect. But on May 30, 2023, in a quiet Omaha hospital room, his story reached its final act. End-stage liver disease drained the strength from a man who once played warriors, leaving him frail, waiting for the inevitable. Yet Beasley's life was never an easy ride. Born into poverty, scarred by prejudice, he fought his way forward, determined to be seen. In those last days, the steady hum of ventilators underscored the silence of unfinished dreams and wounds that time never healed. His passing was a heartbreaking tragedy, but also a testament. Because even in death, John Beasley remained what he always was: resilient, unyielding, unforgettable. Chance Perdomo, a blazing young star gone far too soon. The gifted actor, best known for his breakout role in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, lost his life in a devastating motorcycle crash on March 29, 2024, in upstate New York. His bike spun out on a sharp curve, slamming into a guardrail with fatal force. In an instant, his light was extinguished. Born into the struggles of London's working-class streets, Chance fought his way upward, carving a path from small roles to unforgettable performances with sheer determination and charisma. His talent was undeniable, his future limitless. But the same passion for speed that gave him freedom on two wheels betrayed him in the end. The news rippled like shockwaves, family shattered, friends speechless, fans heartbroken. A rising star, full of promise, silenced before the world was ready to let him go. What remains is the ache of unfulfilled dreams, and the memory of a talent that burned bright, if only for too brief a time. Freeman Jr., a brilliant actor and a man of unshakable will, fought a long, grueling battle with heart disease before passing on August 9, 2012. Best known for his unforgettable portrayal of Elijah Muhammad in Malcolm X, Freeman carried not just the weight of illness but also the scars of a life marked by hardship and injustice. In Hollywood, doors often slammed shut in his face. Roles were cut, opportunities were scarce, and financial struggles loomed large. Yet, through every trial, he refused to surrender. As his health declined, each breath became a fight, his once vibrant strength fading against an invisible enemy. Still, his resilience carved a legacy that outlived the pain. When heart complications finally claimed him, the world lost more than an actor. It lost a warrior whose light had burned through barriers of race, doubt, and adversity. For his family, his friends, and his fans, his absence remains a void that can never be filled. Bernie Mac, a giant of laughter, silenced by pneumonia. On August 9, 2008, the world lost the beloved star of the Bernie Mac show inside a Chicago hospital, his body ravaged after a brutal battle with pneumonia, complications born from years of chronic sarcoidosis. Just weeks earlier, every breath burned like fire, his strength slipping away day by day. Few knew the weight he carried. Growing up in the rough streets of Chicago, Bernie dreamed of nothing more than making people laugh. He achieved that dream, but behind the bright lights and roaring applause, illness stalked him in silence. Sarcoidosis slowly tore at his lungs, turning simple coughs and shallow breaths into a fight for survival. In his final days, the man who once filled stadiums with booming laughter was no longer the comic legend, but a weary warrior, frail, fading, yet still holding on to courage. When Bernie Mac passed, the world lost more than a comedian. It lost a voice of truth, a fearless soul, and a legacy that still echoes in the hearts of family, friends, and millions of fans who can still hear his laugh. Harold Sylvester's final chapter was written in heartbreak. Best remembered as a familiar face on Married with Children, Harold passed away on July 7, 2021, in his hometown of New Orleans after a long and painful battle with heart disease. What was meant to be a life-saving surgery turned into tragedy when complications silenced his heartbeat in an instant. Born into poverty in New Orleans, Harold's journey was never glamorous. He fought his way forward, driven not by fame but by the simple dream of supporting his family. Yet, behind his warm smile and steady presence, heart disease quietly tore him apart, stealing his sleep, filling his nights with pain, and making each day a battle. That final surgery, his last hope for relief, became the cruel twist of fate that ended it all. His weakened heart could not endure the strain, leaving behind a silence filled with grief for his loved ones, his fans, and for a man who had given everything he had to those he cared for. Madge Sinclair, a fierce spirit brought to her knees by leukemia. She wasn't just the commanding voice in The Lion King, she was a Jamaican trailblazer who carved out a place for herself in Hollywood, where racial barriers loomed at every turn. From her homeland to the bright lights of America, Madge faced prejudice, isolation, and countless closed doors. But her cruelest battle was not with Hollywood, it was with leukemia. For years, she endured rounds of chemotherapy, sleepless nights, and relentless pain. Yet she still stepped on stage and in front of cameras, her eyes burning with resolve even as her body weakened. On December 20, 1995, the disease finally claimed her strength. She left quietly, but her legacy speaks loudly, a legacy of resilience, talent, and courage that Hollywood could never forget. Tommy Lister Jr., the towering giant the world knew as the menacing Debo in Friday, lived a life carved from struggle and triumph. Rising from poverty to Hollywood fame, he became a figure larger than life on and off the screen. But on December 10, 2020, tragedy struck. At his Marina del Rey home, the 62-year-old star lost his battle against COVID-19, a fight made deadlier by an underlying heart condition. The warning signs came days earlier: crushing fatigue, shortness of breath, a body refusing to obey a warrior's will. In his final hours, his quiet home turned into a battlefield, where every breath was a fight, and every glance carried a spark of resilience. Tommy Lister didn't just lose a war against illness. He left behind the story of a man who never stopped fighting, even when the odds were unbearable. His passing was a painful reminder that even giants can fall, but the mark they leave is forever carved into the hearts of those who watch them rise. Roxy Roker, a pioneer on television, stolen by metastatic breast cancer. As Helen Willis on The Jeffersons, she shattered barriers, bringing interracial love into millions of homes at a time when it was still taboo. Born into poverty and shadowed by prejudice, Roxy climbed her way into history, becoming not just an actress, but a symbol of courage and change. But behind the warm smile the world adored, her body was fighting a ruthless enemy. Breast cancer crept through her, spreading with merciless speed, draining her strength day by day. She carried her illness in silence, showing the same quiet resilience she once used to push back against society's harsh judgment. On December 2, 1995, in the stillness of a Los Angeles hospital room, Roxy drew her final breath. The sterile walls became the stage of her last, lonely battle. Her passing was a sorrowful end, but her life remains a testament. A woman who faced down barriers, who gave hope, who inspired millions, and who continues to shine long after the curtain fell. Bill Nunn, felled by leukemia, yet forever a giant on screen. Best remembered as Radio Raheem in Do the Right Thing, Nunn was more than an actor. He was a force, a symbol of resilience who carried himself with quiet strength through an industry that often overlooked men like him. On September 24, 2016, in his hometown of Pittsburgh, he slipped away after a long and merciless battle with leukemia. The disease stripped him of his strength day by day, leaving him weary, confined, and surrounded by silence. Even as sunlight streamed through the windows, it could not soften the weight of pain, nor the unfinished dreams that lingered in his heart. Bill Nunn's passing was not just the end of a life, it was the closing of a chapter written with perseverance, dignity, and unforgettable artistry. Though leukemia claimed his body, his spirit remains etched into cinema history, forever alive in the power of his performances. Clarence Gilyard Jr., a man of depth, versatility, and unshakable spirit. From Top Gun to Walker, Texas Ranger, he lit up screens with a presence that was both fierce and unforgettable. But behind the spotlight was a quieter story of struggle and pain. On November 28, 2022, Clarence drew his final breath in a Las Vegas hospital after months of battling end-stage liver cancer, a fight that stripped away his strength but never his dignity. Born into hardship and scarred by racism and relentless societal pressures, Clarence carved out a career through sheer grit and unmatched talent. Yet even as fans celebrated his success, few knew of the silent war raging inside him. In those final days, surrounded not by applause but by 4 drips and cold machines, he fought until his body could fight no more. His passing was more than the loss of a gifted actor. It was the end of a life defined by resilience, a man who gave everything to his art, only to be forced, at last, to surrender to fate. Takeoff. Gunned down in a Houston casino, his future snatched away in the blink of an eye. As the star of Migos who turned Bad and Bougie into an anthem, he escaped the chaos of Atlanta's rough streets and stepped onto the world's biggest stages. But even fame couldn't shield him from the shadows of his past. On the night of November 1, 2022, a vibrant celebration descended into chaos. A heated argument turned violent. Then, gunfire tore through the night. Takeoff collapsed, lifeless, before anyone could comprehend the madness. In an instant, hip-hop lost one of its quietest, brightest voices. His death ripped through the hearts of family, friends, and millions of fans around the globe. It reveals a chilling truth. Behind the luxury, behind the flashing lights, lurks an invisible war, a war that has claimed too many lives. Takeoff is its latest victim, gone too soon. And his story is just one of many. These are the brutal, untold deaths of 31 Black Hollywood stars. Legends that made us laugh, cry, and cheer, but left the world in an unimaginable state of grief. Which story is yours? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to know more about the truths that lie behind the curtain of fame, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories to come.